Welcome to the Tuesday, January 13th, 2026 meeting of the City of Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Megan Cochran,
Brian Fry.
Aaron Murphy.
Simone Brown.
Todd Foltz.
All right. Also in attendance this evening, from legal, we have Taylor Bolt. And from development coordination, we have Stephen Eister and Lisa Middleton. There are some procedural rules we will need you to follow. When your case number and petitioner's name are called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, address, and confirm that you've been sworn in. The petitioner or its agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons or participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes. Then the petitioner will have an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods as stated will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not been previously submitted as part of the petition and that you are intending to submit for consideration in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases decision on competent and substantial evidence which is submitted and which meets the criteria required by the city's code of ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. The variance granted by the board will be only for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms or conditions stated by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of decision. If your case is continued, it will either be continued to next month's VRB board agenda or to the next available decision on an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the Variance Review Board's decision appealed by the City Council. You must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 14 days of the board's written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until the 14-day review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting runs smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from last board's meeting?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
And the meeting passes. Mr. Eister. Or sorry, we have to do
All good, thank you, Chair.
swearing in, yeah.
Real quickly, I would just like to ask the board with regard to tonight's agenda, if any of the board members had any ex parte communications.
No.
Thank you. Let the record reflect everyone answered in the negative. Secondly, with regard to tonight's agenda, in reviewing it, do any of the board members have a conflict of interest?
No.
I have a conflict with VRB
26-15. All right. Then what I will kindly ask of you, sir, is if you could please fill out this form, have it submitted to the clerk, and then secondly, when that agenda item does come up, I'll just kindly ask that you step out during that hearing. Thank you.
Can everyone please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
The first item on tonight's agenda is VRB 26-05. This case was continued from last month for the applicant to obtain additional information about the positioning of the sign and where it can be. The owner of the property is TAC Holdings, LLC. The applicant is Addie Mentry. The property address is 4040 Henderson Boulevard. The zoning is Commercial General, CG. The request is to reduce the freestanding sign setback from 5 feet to 0 feet. A request to increase EMC signage from 16 square feet to 40 square feet, and a request to reduce the EMC sign separation distance to 129 feet from 300 feet. The code sections of reference are section 27-289, height setback. The maximum height of a freestanding sign at the 5-foot setback shall be 10 feet. And then section 27-289.4, two-way streets with 60 feet or less right-of-way width are allowed to have a maximum electronic message sign of 16 square feet with a separation of 300 feet between electronic message signs on the same side of the street. This is the site in question. This is the site plan showing the sign in red along Henderson Boulevard. This is a close-up. The sign sets on this little island and runs right up to the property line here. This is a elevation of what's being proposed. The gray box area is the EMC signage area. And then they have the Watt Plastic Surgery and Med Spa below that, which also factors into their overall signage. Natural resources, transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way, stormwater, and TECO all had no objections or no objections with conditions. This is the criteria under 2780 for the Variance Review Board. And I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Good evening. Addie Mentry, 13266 Bird Drive, Odessa, Florida, 33556. Thank you so much for.
Have you been sworn in, just real quickly?
What was that? Oh, I have been sworn in, yes.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you so much to the board for allowing us to return this evening and for the opportunity to continue this case. At the December meeting, the board asked us to come back with some additional site information, particularly regarding the reduction in the setback, which we've worked closely with the general contractor and civil engineer to further evaluate the site's constraints and identify whether the setback could be reduced without impacting the approved drainage and civil infrastructure. Tonight, I'll briefly reintroduce the project, confirm the two requests that the board was comfortable with, the EMC square footage increase and reduction in EMC separation, and focus primarily to revisit the setback request. We have reduced that from a reduction of 5 feet to a reduction of 2.5 feet. So instead of the sign sitting on the property line, it will now sit 2.5 or 2 feet 6 inches or 2.5 feet back from the property line to accommodate the approved site design, but also we appreciated your feedback and input at the December meeting. So first, just to reorient ourselves, this is the vicinity map. The site sits at 4040 Henderson, which is west of downtown and north of MacDill Air Force Base. The site sits on a well-established high-activity urban area that serves both residential and regional traffic. Per FDOT average daily driver counts, this section of Henderson sees over 21,000 drivers daily and serves a mix of medical, professional, retail, and service-oriented residential uses. Here is the parcel map. This shows us, which Stephen showed us, so this is where it sits on Henderson. So the three variance requests that we are coming to you tonight are still the reduction in the EMC separation from 300 feet to 129 feet, an increase in the allowable EMC square footage from the allowable 16 square feet to 40 square feet, so an increase in 24 square feet, and then a reduction in setback. We actually reduced that from the 5 feet to 2.5 feet, so the reduction is in 2.5 feet from the front property line to the leading edge of the monument sign. So here is the proposed sign. As Stephen said, the gray area will be the EMC, and then the Watt Plastic Surgery Center will be below that. The total square footage of the sign is 46.81, which does is allowed. A 50 square foot monument sign is allowed in the sign code. It's just the EMC sign is only allowed to be the 16 square feet. And here's the site plan. So on the site plan, you'll notice that we added the visibility triangles, which are per the 2004 FDOT design manual. So these are what permitting in the city uses. So at each of those, so they're measured from the property line 14 feet back and then to connect a visibility triangle. So both of the entrances will not be affected by the placement. It would not have been affected by the placement at 0 feet, but definitely not affected at the 2.5 feet setback. And then you can also tell here is a little bit better where we moved that from on the property line to the 2.5 feet. I know it's just a little small in the last slide. So first, just to refresh you, so we're asking a reduction in separation from 300 feet to 129 feet. We don't feel that this is self-created because it's because of the pre-existing site conditions and the placement of the UPS SOAR EMC, which has been installed years before the Watt Plastic Surgery Center. The sign location is where it is because of the existing driveway and the retention pond. So the only place that we really found appropriate to put the sign is in the middle of the street, or in the middle of the parcel, and not in any way like in the visibility triangles. Then we're asking for the additional square footage. So this is obviously a multi-lane, high-traffic area. The corridor does allow a 16 square foot EMC because the roadway is 60 square feet, allowing a 40 square foot EMC to display short static messages is important. And with the 16 square foot EMC, we really could only put a sign copy messaging that was 2 to 4 inches, which is only about 20 to 40 feet of visibility, and we just don't believe that equitably that the 16 square foot EMC would suffice for the visibility. While the city allows EMCs along this corridor because they recognize their value, limiting them to 16 square feet on a roadway of this scale unintentionally makes them too small to function. At this size, messages are difficult to read at the corridor speed and undermines both visibility and safety for the EMC. So here is just on Henderson, it's a 60-foot road. So this is the U.S. Sign Council visibility letter height. So for an EMC that's 16 square feet, that would mean the sign was 2 feet high at maximum. So this means that the letter height could really only be 10 inches. And so just for, maximum viewing distance and the viewing distance at the miles per hour, you really only get about 6 seconds to read the message, and so allowing a larger sign allows the messaging to be bigger, which just allows for maximum viewing safely at the size. That's additional. Okay, so our request number 3 is the reduction in setback. So we did take time based on coordination with the general contractor and civil engineer. The applicant has revised the request to reduce the monument sign setback from 5 feet to 2.5 feet rather than placing the sign at the property line. This adjustment represents the maximum setback achievable without encroaching into the site's stormwater infrastructure. As shown on the approved civil and drainage plans, the front yard area contains a stormwater collection system, retention pond, and required freeboard, all of which are designed to safely manage runoff and discharge towards Henderson Boulevard consistent with existing drainage patterns. The frontage area is not excess area. It is part of the engineered stormwater facility and cannot accommodate structural foundations without redesigning the approved system in the permit. Pushing the sign back the full 5 feet would place it within the pond and freeboard area, which would compromise required storage volume and violate stormwater design standards. The proposed 2.5 foot setback is the minimum variance necessary to respect the approved civil plan, maintain the drainage and safety functions, and still provide reasonable site identification. I also wanted to quickly clarify, last time I mentioned the FDOT Henderson and Manhattan Corridor Vision Plan, which is a plan that they have on Henderson. I did say it was a widening project, and it is not. I have talked to District 7 FDOT staff, and the focus on this is reallocating and better utilizing existing lanes, evaluating operating speeds, improving safety with more balanced multimodal designs, and like introducing bike lanes, updating sidewalks. So this, the setback will not, the street won't widen, so the existing like buffer and sidewalk will still be there, which will give, so the sign like won't be right on the curbing if it was, widening. So I thought that was important to clarify for you. And then this just points out that the sign in question will be in line with signs that are in the corridor, although these signs were permitted when they did meet the required setback, because there was that taking of the road by FDOT for the Henderson Manhattan Vision Project. This will be in line, and even more in line with the 2.5-foot setback. And then this was just showing in regards the UPS sign that is there. This will be in line with that. This was when they permitted their sign. So thank you, Chair and board members, for your time. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Open up for board questions.
So I start by saying thank you very much for offering to bring it back off
Yeah.
the property line. That makes it much easier for us to consider. Question for you, do you happen to know how many square feet the EPS digital sign is? I know you had brought up that what they proposed for it, is it?
So the UPS sign is over the 16 square feet. I think it's 24 square feet. The EMC sign, and then the cabinet overall, I think it's 10 feet by 5. I think it's 50 square feet. And then the EMC is encapsulated within that area.
I'm sorry, you had kind of elaborated further of the pond, the freeboard area. What plan was that a part of that has already been
So it's
processed?
their civil plans. They're already approved under an SPR.
Okay.
So it's like, site plan permit for the site.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they're going through building permitting right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, you guys got any questions? Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, you have 5 minutes of rebuttal time if you'd like it.
I don't have any rebuttal. Thank you so much.
All right, then we can close the public hearing, open up the board discussion, or
I mean, 2 of these are pretty easy. The setback is fine with me. The distance from the other sign doesn't bother me either. The only question I have at all is, do you need a 5x8 sign? That's pretty big, but, you know,
I mean, we've had this discussion before about electronic messaging signs in the city, and the current ordinances, they're so small, they're so tiny, that hasn't been updated in so long, and, with precedent, I mean, they're big signs, they're huge ones all over the city. And, I mean, I don't consider this huge. I actually consider this somewhat in line with the amount of signage down Henderson Boulevard anyway. So personally, I have no problem with it at all, and I appreciate them coming back and doing the things
Yeah,
we've asked them to
100%.
do.
And I mean, 2.5 feet's not a lot, but I think it's an improvement, and so I'm okay with that. I think the 0 foot would have been a little bit more questionable, even with the taking. So we appreciate you making some changes.
I find it interesting, the argument that the slightly larger sign could make it safer, so people that are driving are not squinting or trying to see what that little last bit of message is that's so tiny.
that's fair.
Because they will.
Right? Take their eyes off the roads.
They have
'Cause
to
they
take their
will.
eyes off their phone long enough to do it.
It's
I
also-
appreciate you also finding out, that it's not a widening project. I mean, that, I think, is a much better conversation than previous. Thank you.
The motion?
You want to do it?
No, you can do
Okay, I'm happy to do it. Hang on. Okay, so I move that the variance request for case VRB 26-05 for property located at 4040 Henderson Boulevard be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for 3 variances. A request to reduce the freestanding sign setback reduction from 5 feet to 2.5 feet. A request to increase the EMC signage from 16 square feet to 40 square feet. And a request to reduce the EMC sign separation distance from 129 feet from 300 feet. Based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the applicant went back and provided context of the specific reasoning behind the proposed location of the sign and the sizing of the sign, and specifically referenced some of the taking of the road that had previously been done by FDOT, as well as considerations that occurred because of the SPR plan provisions that have already been accepted by the city. And with that, sorry, that's it. Thank
Second.
you. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. You have something else you'd like to
I
add?
have a question. Was this advertised correctly? Because
I was gonna ask the same question.
because our notices here still say 5 to 0.
So the board can approve less than what's been
more
requested,
than,
but
okay.
not more than.
Okay.
So do we need to specify that in the motion that it's been reduced?
Simone did. She said that they're reducing it from 5 feet to 2.5 feet.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure that was good.
Very good. Well, in that case, we still have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I,
All those against? Got none. Congratulations, your variance passes.
Okay, so items 2 and 3 on the agenda, both misnoticed. So we're moving to item 4, which is VRB-26-12. The owner is James and Mary Rickles in Harrington. The property address is 1042 South Sterling Avenue. The zoning is residential single family, RS 75. The request is to reduce the corner yard setback from 15 feet to 7 feet. The code section of reference is table 4-2, schedule of area, height, bulk, and placement regulations. RS 75 district setbacks are 25 feet from the front, 12 feet from the rear, 7 feet from the side, and 20 feet from the corner. This is the property in question. This is a lot of record, and it is right along San Miguel and Sterling Avenue. This is a zoom up of the property, showing the existing house and kind of like what's going to be proposed on the site. The original request was to go to 7. The site plan shows here they can actually provide 12 feet compared to the 15 feet. This lot as a RS-75 is undersized due to it being a lot of record. It's 54.5 by 135. So it's not the traditional 75 by 100 that is outlined in the code. This is a close-up of that setback showing the 12-foot here. And then the blue number here, this 9.1, is where the existing house is today. So the new house that's being proposed, from my understanding, is going to be able to fit on the lot at the 12-foot setback. And the applicant can explain that further. Natural resources, transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way, stormwater, and TECO all have no objections or no objections with conditions. This is the criteria for the variance review board under 2780, and I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns. And then the document camera is set up for you.
Perfect, thank you. I do have some documents I wanted to share with you if you wanted to have them as handouts. I'll have them on the overhead, so you'll see the same thing. So my name is James Rickles. I'm here with my wife, Mary Jane. I thought that was an outstanding presentation. Mine's not that fancy. But, and I will say Mr. Eyster has been amazingly helpful in this whole process. So it's been a great experience. So nonetheless, what we're trying to do is, we have an old rancher from the 50s, and we're trying to build a new home. We don't really know exactly what we're gonna build at this point, because we're not sure what we can build. We did get a site plan from an architect to help us just to overlay the sample, but that really isn't, we haven't decided exactly what we're gonna build. So that being said, like mentioned, it's an RS-75 house. It's on the corner of San Miguel and Sterling, over across the street from Plant High School. Our hardship is really that when you take the 54.5 feet of the width of our property, minus the 7 foot next to the home next to ours, minus the 15 on the street side, it limits the house to only 32.5 feet. There really aren't any houses in our neighborhood that are 32.5 feet. Our next door neighbor has a 60-foot lot, his house is 45 feet. So if we had a garage, we'd only have like 8.5 feet to have a living space on the side that you would be able to enter the home. So we went to the 7 feet because our current home is 9 feet off the property line. So it's already 6 feet into the setback from when it was built in the 50s. And we would just like to be able to maximize it to, we're just asking for 24 inches basically to go from the existing edge of the home to a 7-foot setback on the street side. And we just wanted to point out that it goes along the lines of a home that would be less than 7,500 square foot, the lot size, if we were RS-60, which we're not asking for RS-60 designation, but it would have a 7-foot setback on the street side. And there really isn't any hindrance to line of sight or traffic issues or anything along those lines. So this is a rendering we did just to kind of show the difference. So this is our current home. This is the 1 story, and we just made up a home to see the difference. We lose the 6 feet. So you'd see how small it would be compared to our house. We raised 3 kids here with an English Mastiff, and I could not do that with a 32-foot white house. I think it was hard enough as it was. But this is what we're trying to do, something along these lines. This right here just points out we're only wanting to go potentially 24 inches wider than what we currently have at this point. And then we also wanted to make sure everybody was happy in our neighborhood. Gulfview has a lot of important people. So we asked them if it was okay with them. And Mr. Kirshner went before the group, the board for the neighborhood association, and pointed out that he felt like it was a hardship, and they have no objection to this 2-foot ask as well. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Yes. Well, that concludes your presentation.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Then I will open it up to board for questions.
Mr. Eister had mentioned at the beginning, but what are the sizing of your lot? What are the measurements for this one? It's not quite standard.
I have a survey that you can't read, but he can reference it here if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on here, it's 54.
okay, there we
Go
go.
to the last page.
It's smaller than the 7.
It's right here.
Yes, okay.
The
Thank you.
Traditional RS-75 is a frontage of 75 feet.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I see that from San Miguel, there's already like an easement or a separate, do you know what the distance is to your
it's
property line from
25
San
feet.
Miguel? What's that?
From the property line to the edge of the street,
Yes.
about 25 feet.
Okay, so you already have a 25-foot implied setback of city
Yes, sir.
easement there.
You said your next to plant is plant
Right across the
north of
street.
you?
South?
South of you?
If that water tower falls over, it'll fall right on my house.
Oh, okay.
So that's where we're located.
Very good, thank you.
Just to reiterate, you said that the current home already sits in the setback.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
9.1 feet off the property line.
So in essence, and this is all just clear, I've heard, I just want to be clear, in essence, this is a 24-inch
Right.
allowance, okay.
We just want to have 2 more feet if possible.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from the board? You have a does anybody else in the audience want to speak for or against the petition? Seeing nobody, you have a 5-minute rebuttal,
I don't
should
think I
you
need
like
it.
it. All right, then I will close the public hearing and open up the board for discussion or motion.
This is a pretty easy one. It's a really small lot. He's not asking for too much. I think this is an easy one to go.
Would we need to condition anything about like a deck? I mean, or with this variance, it would allow for, because the site plan is what's before us, but there's no house yet with a set plan.
But he couldn't extend further than we allow him to.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary, really. I mean, the RS60, the next zoning classification down, it would have already been 7 feet.
That would go to the building department.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it would force another variance, is that right? Like if something was gonna somehow ask the same question, it would now then need to be addressed at that time with a different site plan, is that right?
Correct. So if the variance is granted, they would be locked into 7 foot as the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Any structure, deck, anything that classifies as a structure that's inside of that 7 foot setback would require additional review from the variance review board
Okay,
and a new variance.
all right, thank you, Stephen. That was my only question.
Anything else? I'll give her a whirl. All right. I move that the variance request for VRB 26-12 for property located at 1042 South Sterling Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the corner yard setback from 15 feet to 7 feet with an encroachment for using gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record that this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code. Specifically that this is a squeezed lot, is a smaller lot at 54 feet. The rezoning is really meant for a 75-foot side or 75-foot wide lot, and he's not asking for a large increase to that setback.
Second.
All right, hearing a motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations, your variance passed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You guys have a good night. Okay. Moving along to the next item, which is VRB-26-13. The owner of this project is SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, LLC. The applicant is Addie Mentry. The property address is 3000 East Bush Boulevard. The zoning is planned development. The request is to make a typo. A request to increase the freestanding sign square footage to 256 square feet, resulting in a total sign area of 306 square feet per sign for 2 freestanding signs. So the original 50 square feet they are entitled to by code. That's why it's a 256 square foot increase. If you guys were wondering how the math was working on that. So 306 square feet total signage, 50 allotted by code, a request for an additional 256 square feet. The code section of reference is 27-189. For parcels with street frontage greater than 300 feet, 1 additional freestanding sign is permitted for each additional 300 feet of continuous linear street frontage. This is the site plan for Busch Gardens. Everything in red is owned by the SeaWorld Entertainment LLC. This is the parking area, and it's easier highlighted here on this map. This is the parking area here where the signs are going. There will be one at this entrance down here, and then there will be one at the second entrance here. This is the design for the signage that's going in. Natural Resources had no objections with conditions. The only condition they had was the sign shall not be installed within tree protection zones. Transportation had no objections with conditions. At the time of permitting, required site triangles for both driveways and pedestrian visibility will be required. Wastewater, water, right-of-way had no objections. Stormwater had no objections with conditions, and it was related to the placement of the signs due to their stormwater system. They require a horizontal clearance parallel, a minimum 3-foot clearance to all pipes and structures outside of vertical clearance, minimum 36-inch clearance of all pipes 36 inches and larger, minimum 18 inches of clearance for smaller pipes, and no stormwater design is being approved with this application. I will be available for, and then this is section 2780 of your review criteria, and I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Double duty tonight. Addie Mentry,
Welcome back.
13266 Bird Drive, Odessa, Florida. I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to present this variance case and your time and consideration this evening. I'll be providing a brief overview of the requested variances for Busch Gardens Tampa Bay signage, the unique conditions of the site, and the justification for the required variance for the proposed signage along McKinley. Our goal is to demonstrate how this variance is reasonable, limited in scope, and consistent with the city's signage regulations. So here's the vicinity map, which shows Busch Gardens location approximately 20 minutes from downtown Tampa with convenient access from 275 and I-4. Its position as a regional destination means visibility and wayfinding along major corridors are critical for visitor navigation. Here is the parcel map. So as illustrated, Busch Gardens occupies a single unified parcel of approximately 290 acres, making it one of the largest continuous properties in this area. The site has 4 separate public frontages: East Bougainvillea to the north, North McKinley Drive to the east, Busch Boulevard to the south, and North 30th Street to the west. Because of the size and configuration of the parcel, each frontage functions differently in terms of access and visibility. Before I get to the specifics of the variance request, I'd just like to take a moment to provide some background on Busch Gardens and its role within the city of Tampa. Busch Gardens has been a part of the community since 1959, when it originally opened as an admission-free hospitality attraction connected to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. From the very beginning, the park was designed to welcome visitors and serves as a point of pride for Tampa. Over decades, Busch Gardens continuously reinvested in the site, starting with its first investment of $5 million in 1960 and continuing through ongoing innovation and new attractions. The long history of reinvestment reflects a sustained commitment to Tampa and the surrounding region. Today, Busch Gardens is a major regional destination, drawing more than 4 million visitors to the city of Tampa. The park also supports the local economy by employing over 1,100 people, making it a significant employer and economic driver. Since 2019, Busch Gardens has been implementing a comprehensive branding and guest experience initiative. This includes updates to signage and visual identity to improve brand recognition and visitor orientation. Beyond its business operations, Busch Gardens also is deeply invested in conservation and community impact. The Busch Gardens Conservation Fund, established in 2003 as a 501c3, supports meaningful conservation projects worldwide and provides grants and fundraising opportunities that benefit local charities and community partners. So our variance request is to increase the square footage of which will result in an installation of 2 freestanding coaster tree monument signs along McKinley, with the requested square footage increase of 256 square feet per sign, to provide necessary parking identification. And we are doing this to consolidate or reduce the number of smaller signs otherwise required along the extended frontage. So here is the site plan to Busch Gardens with the proposed sign locations identified along North McKinley Drive. The signs are strategically positioned to provide clear visual cues for guests as they approach the primary parking areas, supporting safe and predictive circulation. McKinley serves as a main access route and thoroughfare for parking. However, Busch Gardens currently has no signage presence along the frontage. Given the size and configuration of the property, the signs are intentionally spaced to function as wayfinding markers. For drivers traveling northbound on McKinley from East Bush Boulevard, the first monument sign that you would encounter is approximately 900 feet into the property, just prior to the dedicated veer-off lane leading to the parking areas. And then for drivers traveling southbound on McKinley from East Bougainvillea, the first sign is approximately 1,900 feet from the property, into the property. The proposed two signs are spaced approximately 1,000 feet apart, reinforcing their function as strategic orientation rather than frequent clustered signs, which, as Stephen said, are allowed. We're allowed a sign of 50 square feet every 300 feet. So we wanted to consolidate the signage that we were allowed here instead of creating visual clutter along the corridor. So here are the sign locations. This is just a kind of Google zoomed in view that's easier for you to see. So these are about 1,000 feet apart, aligned with the parking access points in the corridor. Here is the proposed sign location. The drawing is inspired from the park's roller coaster elements while maintaining a refined and structural form. The sign is non-illuminated and it is in line with the main identification signs that you find at the entrances of McKinley Drive and Bush Boulevard, and then North 30th Street and Bush Boulevard. It doesn't include like electronic message components or dynamic lighting. It functions solely as static identity and wayfinding feature. So I just want to walk you through the statements of hardship. First, the hardship is unique to the property. Busch Gardens is a 260-acre regional destination with nearly 3,900 feet of frontage along McKinley Drive. Unlike typical commercial properties, the park's internal circulation, security, and controlled entry points limit where signage can be placed despite the length of the frontage. Secondly, the hardship is not self-created. The site layout and access patterns are long established and dictated the operational and safety layout inherent to the major theme park. Third, granting the variance will not negatively impact public safety or health. The proposed signs are static, non-digital, and appropriately located outside of site visibility triangles. They improve safety by providing clear wayfinding and reducing driver hesitation along the corridor for parking. The request is consistent with the intent of the sign code and the comprehensive plan, allowing a modest increase in sign size, which establishes fewer signs overall, preserving corridor character while supporting the tourism, economic development, and major civic asset. And finally, granting the variance results in substantial justice. Without the variance, the park could install numerous smaller signs along McKinley Drive, creating clutter and visual repetition. The proposed approach achieves better design, fewer signs, and improved wayfinding, providing a clear public benefit. And in closing, Busch Gardens is requesting a limited and carefully considered variance to address unique and site-specific conditions along McKinley Drive. The request is modest in scope, supported by physical scale and operational realities of the property, and designed to reduce rather than increase visual impacts along the corridor. The proposed signage improves wayfinding and aligns with the city's sign regulations and comprehensive goals, and extends an established design language already present at the park's overall entrances. Importantly, granting the variance allows fewer signs overall, preserves corridor character, and supports one of Tampa's most significant cultural and economic assets. For those reasons, we respectfully request the board's approval for the variance. Thank you for your time and service, and I'm here to answer any questions. Excuse me.
Thank you. Board, would you guys like to have any questions? I guess my only question that kind of piqued my interest was increasing these signs does not negate the fact that they could still put signs every 300 feet, correct?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Right.
So it could be conditioned, however you would like to condition that.
Oh, thank you. Good.
Interesting. All
Yep.
right.
So, sorry, like what would be able to be, is it more wayfinding or freestanding would be allowed every 300?
So this style of sign is considered a freestanding sign. So it would be in that category, not wayfinding. The wayfinding signs are restricted to be much smaller. So these are not considered wayfinding signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I have, the public hearing's not closed, right?
No.
I can,
No,
okay.
you can-
No, we're asking
Yeah,
questions.
I think we would be amenable to a condition, so, we are allowed, and Stephen can correct me, but we're allowed 50 square feet every 300 feet, and then there is opportunity in the code, if you're allowed 2 signs, to put those 2 together and have 100-foot sign, say if you had like a 600-foot frontage. So here, because we have like almost 4,000 feet, we'd be allowed like 11 or 12 signs at 50 square feet. And so here, we're just kind of combining those together for the allowance. And they're strategically placed here because they don't have any identification for parking. If you've been to Busch Gardens, there used to be, in parking, there used to be like a big, like arched area when you went into the veer off. They've uninstalled that just because they're doing this kind of branding rehab since 2019, and so the point was to install these like at the entrances to kind of meet the entire branding.
So the question I have from an aesthetic perspective is, so there is a sign similar to this at the corner of McKinley and Bush, right?
Yes.
Identifying the fact that that's Busch Gardens.
Yes.
And these two, so in the packet that we received on my computer, there is another sign in that packet, I believe, that was different than the coaster tree, correct?
That would be incorrect. So the only request on this hearing today is to have 2 freestanding signs at 306 square feet. 2 of
Okay,
these.
because something in the packet that I was looking at, you said this is not lit, but there were LED cables.
Oh, the internal design, yeah.
Yes.
So this is the site rendering, it was the schematic you submitted.
Oh, the schematic. Yeah, this
Yes.
is
Yeah,
not,
there's
yeah. So this is, I mean, the other coaster, this is built like the other coaster trees.
Right.
And the other ones are non-illuminated. They're built without illumination in there. I mean, I can like pull up what I see.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
it's
have
in
that
the
in
pack.
front
I
of
mean,
you.
I didn't put my computer on the table today, but as it scroll, can you scroll down? Okay. Thanks. Sorry. Yeah, these are mini wall washers. These are LEDs. So they're mini wall washers, DMX splitters. I happen to know all that because I have a background in show business. So
Oh,
there is
these.
illumination.
So they aren't internally illuminated.
They're uplit.
Yes.
Because I was
yes.
like, why are they going to
Sorry.
spend this much money on signs that are going to be dark at night?
Sorry, yes. So they're
Okay.
not internally, nothing inside the sign is
Correct.
internally illuminated, but they will be visible
But they
at night.
are
They're
visible.
just
Okay, because I was
uplit.
like, that's
Yeah.
a big waste. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we've cleared that up. Okay.
And that's how the signs at the entrances also operate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry.
these are duplicate signs that they're basically repeating.
Yes.
They are two-sided or one-sided?
No, they're one-sided.
So one is facing Bougainvillea and the other one will be facing Bush Boulevard.
Yes.
Okay. But they are not, so these are branded signs, they are not wayfinding signs at all.
No.
So it doesn't say
they're
parking, because
not.
they're obviously going to be just adjacent to the parking
Yes.
lot, but it doesn't say parking.
No.
Are there other signs along McKinley that say parking?
Yeah, so we are in talks in the sign package outside of these. In the code, there are wayfinding signs. They're like 5 feet high, 32 square feet that we are designing for them, that are allowed outside of this. We haven't placed them. We haven't said, they haven't approved any of those locations. We thought that these signs mimicking that branding package and placing specifically at the parking was identification enough. But no, they don't say parking.
Okay, so it's Busch Gardens, Busch Gardens, Busch Gardens.
Yes.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
it's repetitive, to be quite honest with you,
Okay.
because it's not serving a wayfinding purpose.
Okay.
because you already have a sign this large at the entrance on McKinley and Bush.
Okay.
I could understand if this was at Bougainvillea and McKinley, but another one in the middle seems to me to be excessive. I mean, it's a beautiful sign. It's just Busch Gardens, Busch Gardens. I mean, I would be more apt to agree to this -1 sign.
Okay.
One at McKinley and Bougainvillea, but not one in the middle, because it's clear you're coming up to Busch Gardens. I mean, it doesn't take much to figure that out.
Yeah.
I think personally, it's, knowing that these signs will exist, knowing that wayfinding signs are permitted, it does sound like clutter to me, quite
Okay.
honestly. Wayfinding signs with these signs sounds like a lot, because, you want to tell people where the parking is, right? Again,
you
I think
have-
the signs are attractive. I just think three signs, that's my personal opinion. 3 signs, it just seems excessive to me. Just saying Busch Gardens, hey, it's
Yeah.
Busch Gardens. Oh, wait a minute, it's still Busch Gardens. Oh, wait a minute, it's still Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Would you
Okay.
be more amenable if these had copy that said parking on them?
I think it would serve 2 purposes on the sign, and it's not more sign, or we condition it, because if we condition it that no other signs can go in, I mean, you're in trouble, right? Because if we're like, you get three signs, if we condition anything, you don't get any parking
Right.
signs unless, that would be correct, right? If we condition that way, then you're stuck
Yeah.
with this,
Right.
right? Which is, I think, what Simone was leading
Well,
to.
now, are wayfinding signs different from the monument signs? I believe they are.
It's a
So
different
you-
category.
Correct.
Oh.
So if we condition
Yeah.
it about monument signage, then they could still have wayfinding signage.
Yeah,
Wow.
so, and wayfind, I mean, it would be like enter, exit, turn,
Parking.
parking.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
but
saying. This is
those are
sitting
small and
at the
kind
of-
parking
Yeah.
lot.
But I think what they're going after is, you go to a store, you go to a Target, a Walmart, the
Yep.
main entrance has got a big sign usually
Sure.
right there.
So does this
they've
one.
got 2 main entrances for parking, and they're putting a big sign that says, these are your 2 main entrances, welcome to Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
But you already have one. But you already have one on the corner of McKinley
do, but
and
that
Busch
one-
and Busch Boulevard.
But that one is more of a, hey, turn left, like, get there, it's kind of it's this way, and then these are the 2 entries. It's almost, they aren't saying, there are no arrows, but they're basically, it's saying this is the drive, go McKinley, to get to the entrance to the park. And then, because it is kind of a weird,
It is weird.
it is a weird spot where the parking is across the street. So I do kind of appreciate that they're trying to put the sign on the right side where you're going to park, even though the park is on the left side and you've been driving by it coming from the interstate. And so people that have never been there before are kind of going, where do I park, where do I park? But they see the Busch Gardens, they're immediately gravitating towards the drive. So even though it isn't a, hey, come park here sign, in an essence, because it's the same way if you go to another theme park, the big Mickey ears are over the place you drive in to go. Like you're going
Sure.
towards the entrance. This is a lot less in your face than that. It's over this beautiful sign on the right hand side, but it's kind of like, if you see that sign, you're going to gravitate to drive towards that. That's the entrance.
I understand what you're saying. I still think it's repetitive.
this
I still
is-
think in that short, because it's really not that long of a space between
No.
McKinley and
Well,
Bougainvillea.
I mean, it's
Can you-
900
I was basically
feet.
confine that to it. So it's 900 feet from Bush to the first sign, and then another 1,000 feet.
To the second, and so the second sign, it's going to be facing Bougainvillea because you can't turn in. So like if you
Which I think is
pass-
very smart.
Yeah. So like if you can't if you go past this veer off lane, then you're gonna have to do a U-turn at Bougainvillea and then re-turn in where this other sign is. Just to orient you, so Busch Boulevard, the first sign is 900 feet at where the veer off lane is, and then you go another 1,000 feet, you'll see like the back. It's finished, but like the back of the other sign, and then if you're driving on Bougainvillea, it's 1,900 feet until you see that. So they don't have any other signage there, and I do appreciate Board Member Folt's comments, because that is essentially like what we're trying to do. I mean, this really is like the main entrance to the theme park, and we want to make that, known and like a the presence there, because it really is like where you're going to go to get into the theme park.
Question.
Yes.
So just for clarification, 'cause
Yes.
originally I was just wanting to conceptualize the distances. So from the corner of McKinley, you
Yes.
said there's a sign on the corner. But then the
Yes.
second sign in from the corner, that's 900 feet between the two of those.
Yes.
Then you said 1,000 feet, or is it 1,900?
So it's 1,000 feet from the sign, like if you're driving from Bush and see the 900 feet sign, and then it's another 1,000 feet to the sign that you would see first on Bougainvillea.
Got it.
Yeah.
Which is like from.
Yeah,
one
and so the
direction.
1900 is the sign from Bougainvillea
To
to
all-
that first sign that you'd see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to say, I'm in agreement that if we're gonna put this much signage, I think something should indicate parking at some point on this amount of signage. I don't know the most appropriate way to do it, but we're providing a lot of signage. I think to avoid what might be perceived as clutter after the fact, it might be easier to combine. And I'm not saying that it should change the look of this, it should, just at least clarify that, yes, this is Busch Gardens, but also parking.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so
like
too. Like, I feel
entrance?
oh,
Would like entrance be?
Well, the entrance,
Well, there's a lot.
I mean, we all know Busch Gardens. I mean, I worked there when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You're driving, and it is odd,
Yeah.
right? Because it's in the middle of a city, and you're
Yeah.
driving down McKinley.
Yeah.
And the entrance is on the left to the park.
To the park,
It
right?
used to be parking.
Yeah.
Now it's, you pay a lot of money, you get
Yeah.
parking. The main parking is on the right.
Yes.
So it is very confusing.
Yeah.
When they had the arch signs, that
Yeah.
was really helpful.
Yeah.
But I would encourage at least one of these to have something that says parking entrance.
Entrance. Okay.
Because I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah.
It doubles, you're gonna see this sign, it's imposing, and it's gonna deliver that message. That's I agree with you on that, do double duty
Yeah.
instead of putting a whole bunch of other signs out there that say parking, cotton
Yeah.
candy, whatever.
Yeah.
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 So
So-
I don't disagree with the signs. The repetition bothers me a little bit. I think it's a beautiful sign, but I do think that you could employ double duty. I do.
Okay.
So I have two questions at this point.
Yes.
Number one, and this might help, is it conditioned already, or could we condition it to where they're only single-face signs and they're pointing opposite directions, so that you're not getting, like, as you're driving up McKinley, you don't get Busch Gardens, which I think is your concern as you're seeing.
Well, you're going to if you're coming from Bush.
But if if you're coming from Bush, you're only gonna see the one, because the second one, you're gonna see the back of it.
Not
which-
this one. No, if you're coming from Bush, there's one on the corner.
Right?
And then
Okay,
you're gonna
so
see
you don't
this
the
one.
two, Yes.
McKinley, you're only gonna see one, right? You're gonna see one. I'm sorry, McKinley and Bougainvillea, you're only going to see one.
yes, the other side.
This
So-
one is not. The mid one is not double-sided.
So I think,
Which would
right,
be purposeful
neither of these would be
otherwise.
double-sided, right? I don't think either one.
it's not a double
So,
Okay.
could they be conditioned so they aren't that way, so you don't get the third repetitive thing? And then if you added parking to like on the gray block or something like that, would that increase the amount of square footage, or this whole thing is one big?
No, yeah, the
Square
whole
footage, so
thing
it
is
doesn't matter what it
the 17,
says.
the 17 by 18 is what is considered. So any technically additional square footage that we add onto the cabinet would be within the copy
Okay, so
area.
adding text to that would
Yeah.
increase.
And for the record, I don't have a problem with size at all.
Yeah,
I have a
not
problem
at
with
all.
repetition and serving a purpose. With wayfind. Like doing.
I would have a problem with clutter. I think that's too, the size to me is not an issue. It'd be more so like adding too much to the area around it. Because understandably, you would still need wayfinding, but maybe this could become more dual purpose.
I feel like, I ride down McKinley and 40th Street all the time, and because I'm a Tampa native, I know that Busch Gardens own this lot because I'm a Tampa native. But if I'm not, it looks like who owns this lot, you know? So I feel like the two distances are not that much of a big repetitive, because I feel like it's so far apart from each other.
Right, but they're not wayfinding.
Yeah.
They are merely identification that this is Busch Gardens. It's not a wayfinding situation. If they added wayfinding to it, I wouldn't have a problem with the repetition because it serves dual purpose. It's a branding and it's a, hey, here's the parking lot. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, and what
If this one, so this is not the one at the corner of Bush. This one is midway, right? on
Okay,
McKinley.
so
Bush,
this
there's
is,
another
so
one
if
here.
I turn right, I'm gonna turn in front of the sign that's on
On
Bush.
Bush, which is here.
Right.
And
So
then this one is at the parking lot.
Yes.
So if this one has wayfinding on it and the graphic,
Yeah.
that to me serves a great purpose. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Bush is
Yes.
here. So it's 1, 2, 3. This one faces this way. These two face south.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir. See what I'm saying? If this has wayfinding on it,
But this one is low, the one that's on 40th Street, that one sits kind of low,
it's huge.
like right on
The
like
one
a
on
wall.
Bush Boulevard
Yeah.
and McKinley is huge.
On the,
It's
like
the
on
same
Would you? It's,
sign.
it's the same size.
It's the same sign.
Right.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like hello. Because I remember that when it went up,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Okay.
You know, I noticed when the branding changed,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, that's really attractive.
Yeah.
Beca-
Thank you.
My,
Thank you.
one last thought, because of
Yeah.
the scale of these and adding them, it would almost like beg a request to increase wayfinding, because wayfind is very limited, it's tiny. Unless Busch Gardens feels that that would be sufficient, I would think they would end up potentially needing something
You're
bigger.
gonna need more than just the wayfinding
Yeah.
on
Yep.
the sign.
Right.
Agreed.
So anyway,
Especially
that
because
was
that's
last thought.
this is a drive
Do you-
lane, and I don't know how long that entrance lane is, but it's a good 500 feet.
It's just given the way you have to enter.
Yeah.
Do you have a like requested verbiage?
Parking.
Do you want do you like
No,
parking or entry? I mean, for us, like the intent of these signs is because it's entrance. Like, I think we would be more amenable to saying entrance instead of parking, only because
Sure.
they're on that sign and like that's where you're gonna enter, like
Well, you
to
can't
go.
get into the park unless you park there.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So
Which is fair.
okay, I just
I
think we
think
would
entrance. I mean,
entrance is okay.
Sure.
I just am not sure if you're going to condition like the specific verbiage. I just on the record want to.
That's gonna be my question to legal.
Yeah.
Is verbiage something that we're even capable of conditioning?
I was gonna say, no, you cannot condition
I
the
didn't think
specific,
so.
you
Well,
can't.
we can't tell them. Yeah.
No, you cannot tell them the specific wording that can go on the sign.
But we could
Okay.
condition it to say the sign would include wayfinding.
You could condition the sign to be about wayfinding as well, yes.
Inclusive
So
of,
like a dual purpose.
Yes, it could include, you could condition it to include that dual purpose, yes.
And clearly, I think that if we did do something like that, they may very well put the word entrance on it
Yeah.
instead of parking.
correct.
Right, Addie?
Yes.
All right.
I mean, I do think it is an attractive.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
You
is
know, it
beautiful.
it is.
Thank
And
you.
I just would love to see it dual, because that is such a long road, and all of those signs, oof.
If you're adding wayfinding, or entrance, you might want to have more lighting though. It's not
I
illuminated.
don't care about that. That's up to them. If they're designing the sign,
They've got
they
a-
want it
a
to be
ground
seen.
light.
Yeah.
Let them, they'll figure that out. believe
No,
me.
yeah, I'm just.
Will it
I'm
be
sure.
too much like to, before we do all this, I mean, come back with some new renderings with entrance or parking on it before we make a final decision? Or what do you
I
think?
mean, they're just asking for square footage. I don't,
Okay.
that's not
But
really.
if illumination changes, that's another variance. no?
Illumination. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't. I don't think it.
I don't think interior LED versus exterior uplighting makes a difference. It would be if they added like an EMC.
Okay.
Right, if they're like,
Okay.
yeah, which,
Oh, okay,
no,
okay,
yeah,
okay, something
I
different,
agree,
yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, the sign is designed, so the sign are designed like the entrance signs, and I mean, we did visibility studies for the illumination as well, and we find that even at the main entrances, the illumination that we have, the lumens, and the photometric plans have said that it's adequate illumination.
Well, and I trust that,
Thank
Judge,
you.
I mean, you design signs,
Yeah.
right, and you do a
Yeah.
great job at designing
Thank
signs.
you.
I trust that you would understand illumination.
I just remember driving there when my kids were young, and they're screaming in the back seat, and everybody's excited, and we're trying to find where we're going, and
Yeah.
everybody's yelling. And just to have a giant, beautiful sign that says "Come here,"
Yeah.
like if it said parking on it, great. But I wasn't reading parking; I just saw the sign and I was driving towards the sign.
Yeah.
And for reference, try working for Busch Gardens Williamsburg like I did, and then moving to this park
Oh.
and going, how do you get in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any more questions from the board? That's good. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I have no rebuttal. Thank you so much
All right.
for the robust discussion and everything that you guys do.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Then we will close the public hearing and open up to board discussion and a motion. I don't think I have a huge necessity for the conditioning. I don't think they're gonna go plunk a bunch of tiny signs out there. If someone that is making the motion is so concerned about adding the wayfinding component as a condition, I don't have really a problem with that either.
Yeah,
But
I don't mind
I
either
think
way.
the signs standing alone at the turnoffs for parking would be sufficient for someone to go, hey, huge Busch Garden sign, parking lot.
To me, it's a beacon, that's all the wayfinding you really need, but if you wanna add it there and it makes a difference, it doesn't bother me.
I think given the way that the road kind of curves off and breaks through to the parking, I think it would be helpful for at least one of these signs to have some kind of indication that there's parking associated with it. That's just me. I would feel most comfortable approving something that had something of this scale that had some indication of that.
I agree with you. I think the sign that is at Bougainvillea and McKinley serves the same purpose as the one at Bush and McKinley. I think the sign midway is the one that's positioned, if I'm not correct. Can I ask Addie a question? Can we reopen it, please? Reopen the public hearing?
Make a motion?
You should make
Can I
a
motion to reopen the public hearing?
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
I'll just call it the midway sign. Is that fair? The second,
So-
the
Okay,
midway, so how far from Bush Boulevard to the first sign
900 feet.
and to the second, to the third sign?
Then
Okay,
it-
so
an
about the same.
Additional 1,000 feet.
Okay,
And then from the third sign, from to Bougainvillea is 1,900 feet. So
Okay.
I want to make it known that there are technically two midway signs. Do you
so
understand?
how many signs are we talking about?
Two.
Okay. So the entrance to parking
Yes.
would be the one closest to Bougainvillea? Or would it be the one closest to Bush,
So
closest to?
they're both entrances to the parking. So the
Okay.
parking, the sign that you see on the bottom of the screen
Yep.
is the 900 feet from Bush.
Yep.
So that's at
Okay.
the veer off. And then the sign that's at the north,
Right,
that
north,
is,
south.
like, if you see the lane turns in, that is where you would turn in if you're coming from Bougainvillea
Gotcha.
into that parking lot. So if you missed that, you would have to go to Bush Boulevard, U-turn, and then come back up. So
So both
that's,
of them would have to be conditioned to be wayfinding.
Yeah, at least this.
They would both have to be, because you have an entrance there to parking, and then you have an entrance there to parking. And like she said, if you miss them, you go down to Bush and do a UE and go back.
yeah.
I'm just thinking of people who are not familiar with Busch Gardens, you know? I get that it's like Disney, it's like you see a big sign, you know it's Busch Gardens, but as far as
Well,
parking-
Disney has 3,272 signs,
Don't mind.
Yeah, they're on building
and
department.
they're, here's another, I'm sorry to have
No,
to
you're good.
reopen
No,
it.
no.
Here's another question I have. So you said that you have wayfinding signs in the works.
Possibly.
Possibly,
Like,
okay.
It's not concrete.
Okay. So
We
we don't know
underst-
when that would happen?
No.
Okay.
No.
Which makes me further want to make these wayfinding signs, if that makes any sense.
Or just
I think that.
Or
if these-
something,
I
yeah,
think
some
these, if these
indicator.
had some wayfinding aspect to them, it would probably reduce the number of other
Correct.
small signs.
So okay, thank you. Ann.
You're welcome.
All right, we
Okay.
will reclose the public hearing and open up for a motion.
I'll give it a whirl. Y'all can help me if because the word, okay. So, okay, I think I've got it. Okay. I want to move the variance request for case VRB 26-13, located at SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment at 3000 East Bush Boulevard, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a request to reduce the increased freestanding sign square footage to 256 square feet, resulting in a total sign area of 306 square feet per sign for 2 freestanding signs. With the following condition, that each of the 2 new freestanding signs also provide wayfinding language at the discretion of the owner. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Oh, thank you. That said, variance as conditioned be granted upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing from an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the signs are being installed for the purpose of reducing the need for smaller signage throughout that particular area, and that these signs will provide branding and identity opportunities for the park and for drivers down McKinley Boulevard.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None? Congratulations, the variance passes.
All right. The next item on the agenda is VRB 26-14. The owner is Kenneth Steve Avalos and Anna Herman. The applicant is Ricky Pederica. The property address is 3215 North 40th Street. The zoning is commercial intensive. The requests are as follows. Request to remove 3 grand trees and reduce the tree retention percentage from 40% to 0%. The code section of reference is section 27-284.2.5. Permit for grand tree removal, application required documentation standards, criteria, in-depth decision, inspections, petition for review. And then section 27-284, table 284.3.1. Tree preservation retention, requirements for multifamily sites over an acre to have a minimum retention percentage of 40%. Previous actions, there is currently a LND-26-02, which is pending, FDN-24-169, which is a formal decision for the site, a vacating of -22-05, and then VRB-21-44 for a grand tree variance that never made it to permitting. So the tree is still there. This is a map of the site showing the wooded lot. These are the grand trees in question. So grand tree number 8 in the arborist report is a live oak, DBH of 34 inches with a canopy measurement of 59 by 66. The condition is C6. The mitigation for this tree would be 14 type 1 trees at 2.5 inches. Grand tree 40 per the arborist report is a laurel oak with a DBH of 43 inches, a canopy measurement of 68 by 52 with a C5 rating. This would have a mitigation value of 10 type 1 trees at 2.5 inch DBH. The grand tree 153 as part of the arborist report is also a laurel oak with a DBH of 40 inches and a canopy measurement of 53 by 77. The condition is C5 and the mitigation value is 12 type 1 trees at 2.5 inch DBH. This is the overall site plan of the project. This is the tree removal plan for the project. This blue line here has been evaluated by EPC and is considered a wetland area and is outside of our jurisdiction. So that would be, if the impacts are approved, that mitigation factor would be handled through the Environmental Protection Commission, and the City of Tampa would handle all mitigation and preservation outside of that area. This is the outline of the proposed building, showing it extending down the side and wrapping around the corner. This is a simplified version showing the grand trees for the reasonable reconfiguration criteria. The red lines are grade lines, and then this black line here, this bolder dark black line, is the reconfiguration of the building. This is alternative site plan 1. And this preserves grand tree 78 and grand tree number 8 and grand tree 153, and then has the following impacts to the left table there. This is alternative site plan 2. which shows the proposed building just kind of turned on site, showing preservation of Grand Tree 78, and then it creates a driveway conflict for Grand Tree 8 and Grand Tree 153 in the rear. There's a lot of comments on this site due to the size of the site. Natural Resources found had no objections with condition. The site was inspected on December 3rd, 2025. During the site evaluation, it was observed that the area is predominantly composed of densely growing laurel oaks. This has resulted in a large number of trees narrow growing in fair conditions. With a significant amount of construction and grading occurring on site, it would be difficult to preserve the trees and prevent adverse impacts caused by the changes in the surrounding conditions. The grand trees are in fair condition with a medium to high failure potential rating between C5 and C6. The current target rating for these trees is 1 due to their rare or occasional use of the property. However, once the property is developed with a permitted structure within the canopy, the target rating would increase to 4. This would raise the overall tree rating to a C8 or C9. This is a little bit different than what we typically deal with the single-family lots, because this is a vacant wooded lot of over an acre. Urban Design had no objections with conditions. Transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way had no comment as of 12/22/25. Stormwater had no objections, but had the following conditions. The site is over 11,000 square feet, and the development may exceed 50% impervious area. A stormwater pond vault/vault is required. For the site building permit, add construction notes. 1, no runoff shall be redirected to adjacent parcels. Add a construction note to the site plan. Development shall comply with City of Tampa's Stormwater Technical Standards, Chapter 21 of the City of Tampa Code. If the project requires the installation of underground utilities, please maintain the following minimum clearances to the stormwater system. Horizontal clearance parallel, minimum 3-foot clearance to all pipes and structures outside wall. Vertical clearance crossing, minimum 36-inch clearance to all pipes, 36 inches and larger. Minimum 18-inch clearance for small pipes. No stormwater design is being approved with this variance request. Submit a BLD permit when conducting the stormwater pond. TICO had no comment as of 12/22/2025. This is the criteria for the grand tree removal request. This follows the reasonable reconfiguration criteria outlined in 27-284.2.5. So this would apply to the 3 grand tree requests. And then 2780 would apply to the request to reduce the retention percentage from 40% to 0%. So it'll be 2 different requests that the applicant is looking at today. And then I'm available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Thank you, Board. Ricky Paterica with Dark Moss. I have been sworn. With me here today is Kevin Reale with Stearns Weaver Mill Legal Land Use Legal Counsel, and Madison McNeil with Soho Housing Partners, developer and client. As usual, Stephen did a great job presenting the 4 corners of the discussion today. I'm going to walk a little slower through this to paint the picture. Oh, yes, actually.
You mind stating your address also when you get a chance?
Oh, sorry, thank you. Was waiting on a special delivery. 308 East 7th Avenue, and I have been sworn. Sorry. So I'm going to go back through a little bit, add some detail to the facts Stephen presented to both build the reasonable recon argument and speak to reasonable use. This is the site. It's located on 40th Street, about midway between MLK and Columbus in East Tampa. As you can see, it's heavily wooded, almost complete canopy coverage, and it's surrounded by commercial properties on the north and south and single-family residential on the east. Following my slides. The site functions largely as currently largely as an FDOT stormwater pond, receiving runoff from adjacent properties, 40th Street and Melbourne Avenue, the curving side on the top. It actually goes pretty far to the east on Melbourne. This is the proposed site plan. I added a little bit of color to help help follow along. We have the site plan consists of an apartment building with parking below, a driveway connection to 40th Street, and the remainder of the site is a stormwater pond, and there's a couple. These dark gray bars are approximations of the stormwater vaults. I verified today they're actually slightly larger than this, but and I can show you an exhibit for that if necessary. So altogether, the blue and the gray are all stormwater facilities, either on-site for treatment and attenuation, or holding the off-site adjacent stormwater flow. Any reduction in this amount of stormwater capacity would affect off-site properties and roadways. I don't want you to try to read all this, but the civil engineer had a meeting with FDOT, and these are the FDOT standards that need to be met. The main one is that they're only allowing one driveway on 40th Street. And the additional requirements are spacing from other driveways on adjacent properties, turning radii, internal circulation standards. So there's a very specific positioning of this driveway that drives both our proposed site plan and the reasonable reconfiguration criteria. My team completed a tree inventory earlier this year, as Stephen mentioned. We found 89 jurisdictional trees located outside of that blue line. I know this is a little colorful. Let's say outside of this blue line, I'll come back. 89 jurisdictional trees, meaning mitigated by the city, protected and mitigated by the city, 39 of which are retention quality, meaning the 39 are fair or better, 50 are poor or worse. You can interpret that on here as the trees that are in green are retention quality, and the trees that are brown are not, so they wouldn't count towards this request. The trees that we're requesting for the grand tree removal are the pink Gs. I'll go into them again more detail. So there's one in the northeast, one in the one in the northwest, one in the mid-east, and one in the south. Again, this is a wetland. We're currently going through EPC permitting and mitigation for impacting this wetland. The trees within this wetland are not jurisdictional to city permitting. They are addressed in the mitigation requirements with EPC through the Uniform Mitigation Assessment Method, or UMAM. That defines wetland function, and the trees contribute to wetland function, but they do not factor into our request. We're including the grand tree in this because it was in a previous variance, and just want to make sure that it is fully addressed, because the code provisions and the retention criteria say exclusive of wetlands. However, the grand tree removal doesn't say something that specific, so we're doing it in an abundance of caution. This is tree 8, 34-inch non-hazardous southern live oak. I can speak to it in more detail if needed. From a site perspective, it's located in the off-site the retention pond that's addressing off-site storage. Because pond bottoms require full excavation to achieve the storage volume, there are no alternative construction methods we can do to facilitate that. And any reduction would reduce stormwater pond function. This is tree 78, a 43-inch, sorry about that, 43-inch non-hazardous laurel oak, rated C5. It has fair structure for the species, but there's crown structure limitation due to the forest condition. It's located within the building footprint currently. Obviously, there's no special design technique we can use when the building's, when it's on top of the building, or when the building's on top of it, other than revising the building footprint itself. which we'll go through in the reasonable recons. Tree number 153, 40-inch non-hazardous laurel oak. It is also located in one of the stormwater pond areas, and it also has the same constraints. We can't, any preservation would reduce pond area, which would affect stormwater pond function and regulatory requirements. Just as a reminder, as we move in the reasonable recon, these are the kind of two main components that we're working with. The building footprint and stormwater vaults shown in teal, and then the main stormwater pond shown in blue, normal blue. Again, this is reasonable recon option 1. This takes the existing building, kinks it a bit around that one laurel oak. This results in a 17% loss in pond area, therefore pond function, therefore creates ponding issues, and it also results in a small loss in residential units, additional exterior wall length, which increases cost, additional retaining walls for the stormwater pond, which increases cost, and it reduces parking. The next option takes the existing footprint and rotates it. This facilitates the preservation of one grand tree, but it still impacts 2. It impacts grand tree 8 on the north, where the driveway, which cannot move north with this design, has to have this little kink in order to maintain the turning radii needed for solid waste trucks. So it puts the driveway into the one grand tree and then puts the building into the other grand tree, or it would result in a unit loss where that tree number 153 is encroached upon. And this reduces the pond area again by 8%, which reduces pond function, breaks regulatory requirements, and causes off-site impacts. So, in summary, we attempted to show reasonable recon options that negatively affect the site, either in stormwater, from a stormwater perspective and stormwater function, or paired with an access constraint from the driveway relocation. And for retention, we have a unique site that is basically taking on the stormwater of multiple sites. The hardship's not created. Those stormwater requirements were already imposed on this site from the other agencies. Granting relief from the minimum retention requirement, tree retention requirement, would avoid off-site stormwater impacts associated with the storage that's required here that we have to maintain. And this is the minimum variance necessary. The project we're showing is multi-stories. It's not exactly relevant how many stories it is, but even if it was single-story, we would have the exact same variance. So it's not a density or intensity question. It's a horizontal and stormwater storage problem that's bringing us for you today. And I appreciate holding on with me with that. I completes my presentation.
Thank you. Questions from the board? I guess I can dive in for you. Obviously, this site was holding a lot of water, judging by the 2 large vaults and the very large stormwater mitigation area to the north. The reconfigurations look like, according to Mr. Eister, that even if one could save 2 of the trees, by the time construction was finished, we'd be stuck with some C9 trees that are going to be dangerous for people. Is that correct? Thank you. I mean, it just seems like for the site to be usable, there's no real other way. The storm, I mean, I know you're not the civil on this, but the stormwater that you guys are retaining on site, is that what's sitting in the vaults, or is that what's sitting in the ponds? Where's the water gonna go
Yes.
once you're at capacity?
Very simplistically, the off-site stormwater is in blue here, or the purplish blue. And the on-site stormwater is what's treated in the vaults. There's a little bit of bleed there, and I'm not gonna try to be the engineer here, but that is the scale of stormwater volume that we're working with. And because it's already low and wet now in a wetland, there's a vertical constraint too on how deep they can go. That's what's making it become so big, wide, and
On the image you have up here in the northwest corner, it looks like there's a culvert or a box inlet or something. Is that's flowing in to the site? All right, you guys are dealing with a lot of water.
yes.
So this is a private property, but it's taking and holding water from adjacent properties?
And I don't know how to explain that, but yes.
It's
And
coming from everywhere, from the
It's just kind of,
neighborhood to the east, from the road to the west, both north and south properties. It all
It's a-
flows into this poor property.
it's characterized as a bowl, but yes, I don't know why it's not eminent domain or something like that, but
That's tough property.
yeah, but it's unusable if you don't.
Yeah, without the stormwater management area, is there any, how many trees will be able to be retained? Did we say that number, or?
yes. The site plan is still going through permitting, and our initial tree disposition plans, if we can move to the Elmo. Okay. We're currently showing 8% preserved, which is, pardon me, 3 trees. So I don't like working with 3 trees in a tough site already, which is why we're not requesting 8 or 5, but 0, because the percentage is so highly tied to every single tree.
A question for Mr. Eister. When the percentage of retained trees goes from 40 to 0, I know the grand trees have mitigation trees. Is there some sort of tree bank contribution or additional offsite, something that has to be done to?
Yeah, that is correct, and I think, Ricky, you even show that right here. So it'll be
Yes.
176 type 1 trees required for mitigation, 4 type 2, 3 type 3, and then 4 palms. So that all will be collected at the time of construction. It'll factor in what can be put on site responsibly, and then the remaining balance will be put as a contribution to the tree fund. And then that fund is then used across the city to do.
Okay, so the 40% just doesn't evaporate, so that's good.
That is correct.
Some of it goes back on the site. What's responsible to go back on the site?
That is correct.
Yeah. Mitigation always persists.
Any other questions? All right, yeah, it's a strange one. I'd like to see if anyone in the audience has something to speak for or against the petition. Please come on up. Please sure to state your name, your address, and whether you have been sworn in.
Yes, John Gerhardt, Trident Leasing, 3212 North 40th Street. I own the lot next door.
Have you been sworn in?
I'm sorry?
Have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have been sworn in. About 2 years ago, I received a letter from the city about an abatement on North 23rd Street that runs in between this project and my property. I don't have any idea. I don't believe that this drawing that they have is true. I don't believe it's accurate as far as where my property and their property abuts now that this abatement has been put in. I don't know how much land the city has given me, and no one seems to be able to tell me, although my tax bill shows I'm paying for a little bit more. But I have a hard question on that grand tree number 8, because I'm just not convinced that line is accurate that they're portraying. And I've just asked somebody from the city to, I have no problem with the project, but this grand tree number 8 and that property line, I want to be convinced I know what's going on before this goes down.
All right. Strange. Mr. Eister, I don't know if you have any information on this. Was there Was there a vacation of an alleyway or something?
So there is a abatement of a road. I provided my email to the citizen because I do not know exactly what the info is, but I do want to get him a copy of that information. So everything can be verified. This information will be verified again through
Through the
permitting,
voting
et cetera.
process, right.
But
So if this proceeding continues, whichever way it goes, even if it is approved, it still has to go through the building permitting, which is gonna review the boundaries, square footage,
correct, and if this
Sur-
tree,
survey.
yeah.
if tree number 8 is not on their property, once everything is verified, the variance for the grand tree removal is tied to an approved building permit. So if the building permit does not include that portion of the property, of if it was recorded, however it was recorded, correctly or incorrectly, the grand tree would never be approved for removal because it's not tied to a building permit, if that makes sense.
I have a question for legal now. In the event that there is a right-of-way that was vacated, of which they each got half, so now tree 8 is no longer on the property, but within the 2-year period of the approval of this variance, they come to an agreement and acquire the additional property from the neighbor, would this variance still hold, or? Because I'm just thinking about, property boundary lines, what was petitioned,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask you to.
Does this folio number even encompass that tree currently?
Understood. So if I understand the question right now, it sounds like the issue is that where tree 8 is, it's a question of who owns that piece of property. Am I to understand that?
That's correct.
So, right now, the variance approvals and the applicants typically title the land and run with it, and we typically require that the applicant be the owner of that parcel. So I think if there is a question right now of ownership of part of the parcel and where tree number 8 lies, I think it may be beneficial to try and find out that information before granting an approval.
So continuance.
Well, I have a question for the applicant. If you have, could you have an actual recent survey? And was it produced after the vacating? I mean, at least date-wise?
For the record, Kevin Reale, 401 East Jackson Street, Land Use Council, but I wear a dual hat some days and do some transactional work. And,
Have you been sworn in?
Yes, I'm sorry, I have been sworn. And did I say my address? 401 East Jackson Street, Suite 2100. So I had to wrap my head around this the other day, and I have not spoken to the gentleman. That conversation has all been through Ricky, but I actually feel very good about answering your questions today because of what tree we're talking about, because I have some, what I think is definitive info. But what I will point out, though, is that when the permitting happens, so the LND permit that this is supporting, that will have to have a survey approval before that would ever be granted. And so I don't think, for starters, I don't think there's any risk to the city here because no permit's gonna get approved until city surveying goes forward. But I'll start with a couple of pictures here. We can bring up the overhead. So the property, and this is gonna be hard to connect the dots because this plat is very old, but I'm gonna show you how it relates on a survey here in just a moment. But what we're talking about here is the area of 23rd. All right, and then there's also alleys, and then there's also 41st. And so these areas were, and as you can see when you're being shown the aerial by staff, there's, there is a single-family subdivision to the east that was actually replatted to make that, and then everything that's on the corridor there that's commercial, they just built over that plat and never actually implemented the plat. And so this gets busy. So if there's questions after my explanation here, I can explain it. But if we're looking here, and I'm going to try and draw on it, you have 23rd Avenue, and that's going to be these dotted lines at the top here and at the bottom here. And you can see tree 8, the whole right of way then is on my client's property. And to your point, normally that's split half and half. But there are 2 vacatings that happened here, and these highlights here deal with the more recent vacating. I'm going to start by going back in time on the first vacating. So the first vacating was from 1960, let me get the exact date for you. June 6, 1967. And at that point, all of the property down here and up here was under common ownership. So that vacation happened and it all went into one owner. Subsequent to that, the deed into my client, or it was actually previous to that, but after that vacating, a deed went in to split these properties, and they didn't split it on the right-of-way line. They can divide their own property however they want. And they decided that all of the property in the right-of-way stayed with one half of the property and not the other. And then subsequent deeds have followed that. So all of this area was 23rd Avenue, but it was all vacated together into the same owner, and that owner subsequently sold it. And we have a survey, it's not showing the most recent vacation. This survey is from 2018. But that's okay because the vacation happened in 1963. But you can see the property line here shows all of the platted 23rd Avenue in my client's property. More recently, there was a vacating over here dealing with the eastern part of 23rd Avenue. And so you have an intersection here with 41st and with 23rd. So I'm going to try and delineate that a little bit. And so half of 23rd Avenue, so the top 35 feet are in the gentleman's property. He got that half as part of that vacating. My client got the bottom half. This circle is not part of the plat. That was a separate dedication that the city vacated that definitely goes all to the client. So the summary here, and then I think instead of keep going, I'll entertain questions. But the summary here is that it is the rule to split the right-of-way in half. But it was all under common ownership in the 60s. And subsequent to that, they sold the property. You can ignore the right-of-way at that point, it doesn't matter. More recently, the subdivision has followed that rule because the more recent vacating, the more recent vacating happened when there were different owners on either side of the right-of-way. I'll pause there for questions. I have other visuals if they will be helpful. But I'm very confident that this whole area here is in the ownership of the applicant.
Does that matches the Hillsborough County property appraiser site?
This area does. There's the Hillsborough County, it looks like their GIS. Is there any way to pull that up? Do you have an image of that? Well, okay, so I have one without the area. So this area here, this is the area we're in question. Yes, that is how it shows on the Hillsborough County property appraiser. Their GIS seems to show it a little too thin in this area, but it doesn't match the survey. That's not the area we're talking about, and we don't own that. But the property appraiser GIS is not the rule, right? The city surveyor will confirm that, and that area is not shown on our site plan. We are not saying that area is included. So the more recent vacating, it looks like it's a little thin. I can't even really measure it. I see the clerk, I'm looking over the clerk's shoulder, it looks like they have it pulled up. Is it possible to show that on the screen, or no?
Oh, Lisa.
But anyway, that area, the whole area of 73rd on the western part of the property that we're talking about, the property appraiser does show that as all part of this property.
So with that in mind, it feels like if the property appraiser is showing it, the surveys are showing it, I don't have a problem with us going forward with. If there's something else that comes out that's legally to challenge it, that's happens beyond us from a variance standpoint.
And the city surveyor will also thoroughly go through all of this, but it sounds to me like the age of the vacations and the chain of title makes sense to where that would be in the right position.
Yeah, my question is for the city is, because there was a more recent vacating, I mean, is there intention to continue? Because that would be the only outlier to me is if they only did a partial, they didn't go all the way through. Like, would the city have any interest in vacating more of this, is my question.
So, if it's okay, I can answer that. So, everything in between the two properties is vacated now.
Okay.
So, the more recent vacating, what was the date of that? It was
That was the
I think it's 2019.
Okay.
20, or even more recent. That vacating, there's nothing left between the properties at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Then that answers
And that
my
area
question.
doesn't have the tree that we're,
No, no.
that's not, that we don't have concern with that tree. So we're really just talking about the 3 trees,
Yes.
and none of those are affected by the vacating.
Very good. Okay, but that gentleman seems to think that it's a problem. We can't gloss over what he.
I
We're not
agree,
glossing over it.
we're not glossing over it. I think from what I've heard, as testament, it seems to make sense where they currently have it shown. But again, luckily the city surveyor is gonna put a
Right.
very, very big microscope on it and make sure that it's correct before anything moves forward.
Yes, they regularly hold up our applications, and we're okay with it. I'm just saying, they are very thorough, very, very thorough. Yeah.
All right, do we have anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for or against? Hearing none, the applicant, do we have any more questions? Nope. Applicant has 5 minutes of rebuttal.
No rebuttal, thank you, board.
Then we will close the public hearing for a motion, conversation, discussion.
So I have, this is a complicated site, so I think no matter what we do, we have to just reference that, at least with the criteria, because it's so densely covered in trees currently, and, it's got so much water coming to the site, so I don't want to ignore any of that for any potential stormwater stuff that's going to be on the property going forward. I think that's really where the hardship is coming from, personally. So I just wanted to emphasize that. That's kind of really what I'm looking at in terms of.
Looking at the proposed design, to me, it looks like they obviously have to do a lot of research. It says right in the code that they cannot discharge water. And if I was a betting man, this site currently is discharging water. There's no way that this site currently offers the amount of storage as that site plan with the 2 giant vaults, the huge pond and the additional pond on the southwest corner. So, in my opinion, I think this would probably help with water in the area and any sort of flooding that maybe that neighborhood or the neighboring properties may see.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of those. The incoming water is what really makes a hardship on this. That's a very.
And to speak to the trees, I do, this board always wants to save trees. We look at them very, very, very well when we're going through these things. It sounds to me like almost anything that has to be done at this site due to the water restrictions is gonna put these buildings and ponds either right up on these trees to the point where there's just no way that they could survive in any sort of fashion. I mean, there are no trees, it's sitting in a tree well.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can be really done.
I'm impressed they're spending the money to actually build on the site. It makes it almost unbuildable even because you have to spend so much money.
That's a lot before they even
Yeah,
put the building in.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
so.
It's a lofty goal.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm good with it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
fine.
working as well.
Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. All right. I move that the variance request for case VRB 26-14 for property located at 3215 North 40th Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for 2 variances, a request to remove 3 grand trees, and a reduction to reduce the tree retention percentage from 40% to 0%, based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 and, 27-284.2.5. I was just gonna say, I'm sorry, I think I have to restate this, I apologize. Let me start over.
Make it tricky.
But because there's 2 variances and one's based on tree, let me just make sure I have the right code sections here. Because the
variance section for the tree retention percentage, that's 27-80, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's start over. I move that the variance request for case VRB 26-14 for property located at 3215 North 40th Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing of removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284.2.5 T4 of the city code and code section 27-80 for the tree retention criteria for granting tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record showed that this is a former FDOT stormwater runoff site and currently still operates as such, and that there's a considerable amount of water that runs through the property or onto the property. That reasonable reconfiguration of this site would not accommodate the stormwater storage that's necessary to accommodate the water, and that the building footprints as proposed would allow for adequate stormwater storage.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Seeing none, the variance passes. Congratulations.
The last item on the agenda for tonight is VRB-26-15. The owner is Jesuit High School. The applicant is Ricky Pederica. The property address is 4701 North Himes Avenue. The zoning is planned development. The request is to remove 2 grand trees to construct a new cafeteria and arts building, not a single-family residence. The code section is 27-284.2.5. Permit for grand tree removal. Previous actions on the site are REZ-21-38 and REZ-15-78. This is a map of the high school. These are the grand trees in question. This is grand tree 115. It's a live oak, 46-inch diameter, with a canopy measurement of 66 by 89. The condition is C7. The mitigation for this tree would be 21 type 1 trees at 2.5-inch DBH. This is grand tree 133. It's also a live oak measuring 33-inch DBH with a canopy measurement of 51 by 65. The condition is B6 and has a mitigation of 14 type 1 trees at 2.5-inch DBH. This is the existing conditions of the site. This is the PD site plan, and these are all oriented the same way to help follow along because it is a larger, more complex site. This is, so as you see the 2 yellow boxes from the original plan, 2 yellow boxes, and then we are working in this area here. This is the proposed building along with the emergency path that's going to connect to the main road of the campus. Now we're gonna get a little, this is the zoomed in version showing, this is grand tree, the second grand tree that was shown in the presentation, and this is the first grand tree shown in the presentation. This is a emergency access path. This is reasonable reconfiguration 1. This creates almost a foyer type concept within the center of the building. And then it shows the impacts to the plan. This leaves the southern live oak as well in the emergency pathway. This is alternative site plan 2, which opens up the middle of the building and does not complete the emergency pathway to preserve the 2 trees. Natural Resources had no objections. The property is in compliance with the REZ. The rezoning included an option to remove trees for the school's expansion through the Variance Review Board. At the time of the rezoning, one tree was approved for removal, but it was not grand at that time. Grand tree 133 is centrally located within the footprint of the proposed addition, and tree number 115 is located within the required emergency access path. This site is also preserving trees 127 and 128, both of which are preservation quality grand trees. Transportation, wastewater, water, all had no objections. Right-of-way had no comment. Stormwater had no objections, and TECO had no objections. This is the criteria for the grand tree removal under 27-284.2.5. And I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Eister. Thank you, Board. Ricky Pederica, 308 East 7th Avenue. I have been sworn. With me today is Kami Corbett, Hillward Henderson, Legal Counsel, and Mark Sullivan, Florida Engineering, Civil Engineer. Thank you again, Stephen, for the presentation. I'm going to go back through a little slower to talk through the details. This one's also complex, but for different reasons, mainly from the previous rezoning or the applicable rezoning and the nature of the design. This is the subject site with north facing up, or sorry, to the left. Because the site had a long-established master plan campus, these are going to rotate a couple times because the documents, kind of like you saw with Stephen, I'll try to make sure you follow along. This is the rezoning site plan. The area we're looking at is, or the previously approved rezoning, the area we're focusing on is in the pink dashes, which was shown as the cafeteria and student center in the PD. Between the cafeteria and the gymnasium, just slightly south of it or plan right of it, is the student commons, which is an outdoor gathering space. And it also shows the emergency access. There, as part of the PD approval, the site plan included a note recognizing that the building and parking were conceptual and that some grand trees could be impacted as the project moved into detailed design. That note also anticipated that those locations could be adjusted to the extent reasonably feasible to preserve potentially impacted non-hazardous grand trees. And if that removal was still required, it would come to this board as opposed to back to council. That was the main function of the note, that there would be slight design changes were expected, but that we wouldn't need to go to a full rezoning to address them. Zooming in, this is the proposed footprint relative to the PD footprint. The proposed is in blue. The PD, again, is in pink, and it also is starting to show the relationship of the grand trees in question relative to the PD and to the proposed site plan. And I'll go in more details on those in a moment. This is the same view, rotated 90 degrees to show north up, and the rest of the graphics will be oriented in this way, thankfully. Several years ago, we completed a tree inventory. We updated it slightly for this variance application, and these are the 4 trees in question. 4 non-hazardous grand trees shown in red. This is a more detailed exhibit of basically the same view, showing the proposed building footprint with the 4 grand trees and the emergency access drive. These are the elements that are proposed: a student center in dark blue, a cafeteria in teal, a pod of science classrooms in pink, and the student commons in green. Of the 4 trees directly impacted, tree 115 is within the emergency access drive alignment, shown in dark gray, and tree 133 is within the building footprint of the science classroom pods in pink. Tree 115, shown in blue, that is the one located in the emergency access drive. It's a 46-inch Southern Live Oak C7. It's in a slightly sloping area because of Loyola Lane, which is just shown kind of in the front, and the foreground of that photograph is elevated a little higher for kind of a pedestrian plaza effect in that area. Just north of that building, if you look in the, or just north of that tree, if you look on the aerial in the top right corner of the slide, you can see the new Fine Arts building that is formally aligned to this axis that is aligned on the emergency access drive, which you'll see more about that shortly. This is tree 127 in blue. It's preserved, not part of this request, but part of the reasonable reconfiguration constraints, because this tree is preserved, the full canopy of this tree is currently preserved. C7 preservation quality. Tree 128 is directly adjacent to it, rated B5, very nice tree. It also is being preserved, and it constrains our site plan by doing so. Finally, there's tree 133. In the rezoning, this tree was marked as removed, but it was 29 inches at the time. So no waiver was requested for this particular tree. And we're before you today to reconcile or to true up the request now by requesting a variance for the removal, but the rezoning always intended it for it to be removed for its placement in the site plan. Otherwise, it's a good quality tree. This is reasonable reconfiguration option 1. In teal now are representations of the main architectural axes on the campus. They're not typically something we would include in reasonable recon, but they do in a campus situation like this. It's a little mini college campus if you haven't been there. Very impressive. Formality and architectural character are important to consider. And so I wanted to emphasize that as I show these diagrams. So what happens here is there's a functional loss in building square footage in order to accommodate the 2 trees. We lose half of the student center currently because the emergency access drive has to kink around the building, around tree 115. That kink would also introduce retaining walls along the tree edge, and that kink would introduce emergency access degradation by causing sightline encroachments and changing the character of the pedestrian promenade when not in an emergency situation. So if you could extended that, or that line extends north to the Fine Arts building, there'd be a very formal approach to the Fine Arts and then this hard kink around it. On an otherwise very formal and orthogonal campus, orthometric campus. Also, to address the other tree that's now in a little atrium of a science building between the back of a cafeteria and a kitchen, in order to accommodate that tree in the center of that building elbow, let's say, it shifts mechanical and electrical buildings into the student commons and essentially into the other front facade of the science building. So if you imagine the Marshall Center at USF or another main campus building, picture a utility structure on one side of its face. That's essentially what's happening with this reasonable recon, as you can see with the way it relates to the east-west axes. Option 2 is a little more aggressive with what's being attempted. It takes the student center and the cafeteria and the kitchen and rotates it 90 degrees north. That creates a small courtyard, sub-courtyard, directly west of tree 133, and takes the student commons and orients it south onto the student commons south of it. Constricting the student commons, removing the orientation of the cafeteria on the student commons, which was intended to be sort of outdoor, a real porous relationship between the cafeteria with outdoor dining and what happens in the student commons. And it still creates an emergency access conflict with the Grand Tree 115, while dramatically changing the building's orientation, adding approximately 300 linear feet of exterior wall, increasing the cost, increasing the building envelope complexity internally and architecturally, how the program elements are working between the back of house of the kitchen and the back of house of the science classrooms. It just makes an inelegant and inefficient solution by a lot of poor architectural decisions. So in summary, I'm presenting two reasonable reconfigure options where we've preserved trees and designed a very elegant and compatible building and program for this campus that was contemplated in the rezoning. And the tree removal proposed was also contemplated in the rezoning, and now we're here before you to perfect that request. That completes my presentation.
Thank you. Would you mind pulling up the aerial of the current campus? I think you had it on there in one of your
Do you have an aerial?
initial
I'm
slides.
sorry. I should have. I have little aerials, but not a big one.
Sorry, somebody did. Oh, shoot. Right.
So we're roughly, if you can track that, we're this area.
So the arts building is the large building to the north.
Yes,
The emergency access is going to be coming off the southeast corner of the arts building, heading towards the gymnasium, due south.
correct.
Gotcha. And
You
then
could-
those.
And it's already established here. We're extending it north, essentially.
Okay. And so there will be demolition of those existing buildings and to build the new
Correct.
building. Okay. Mhm. And so none of these, looks like almost 3 roof lines will remain, that's all gonna go?
All of, everything sort of in this square here will be raised
Thank you.
and replaced.
Mr. Eister, I know you love these questions. Construction situations, that 29-inch that's now 33-inch beautiful B6, that looks like it's sitting right up against the existing building, which is going to be demolished, including footers and plumbing and electrical and all the things underground. That can't be good for a tree.
That is correct, and that's why my finding of the application was no objections with conditions.
Gotcha.
Because of those, both sets of impacts. It's gonna get impact twice.
Right. And even if we tried to do one of the architecturally not smart ideas, it would still have that same sort of
That is correct.
poor effect on the trees. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I've got. Do you have anything?
I was just gonna say, did you make note of it in your full report? That because I know that at least in the last matter, it kind of said, the ratings would go down. And I just hope that that's somewhere in this record.
So with this situation, the campus is already being utilized. In the previous case, that property was not being utilized at all.
Okay,
So that's, if you look at the rating system that was provided, all the target ratings on those trees were set at 1 because there is no use. This site here already has the use. So the rating with this building compared to the new building would not change.
okay,
So that factor has already been considered with these ratings,
okay.
so it didn't require the 2 sets.
Didn't change.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Anything else? Is there anyone in the audience like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, Mr. Federica, you have 5 minutes rebuttal, should you need.
I do not. Thank you, board.
Then we'll close the public hearing, lead the board discussion, a motion.
I can make a motion. There's no
I
discussion.
figured we put it on file that, again, You know, we hate to see, especially a nice, really nice tree be taken away from the Tampa canopy, but in this situation, just like, say this building just had to be demoed, it would destroy that tree.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to plan for these things, but when you plant a really nice live oak within 5 feet of a new structure, that's
That's what's gonna happen.
poor landscape planning, in my opinion, but we seem to run up against it a lot.
Yeah, and I know we closed the meeting, but I would hope that as part of their new landscape, some of the replacement trees would be at least thought of in that way. It's hard to go that far in the future, but at least they would. There's going to be replacements, and hopefully they're going to be within locations so they can thrive.
Being familiar with the Jesuit campus, I'm sure they're going to do some
Oh
really
yeah,
great
they'll
stuff there.
they'll do justice to it.
Yeah, but that being said, it's important to call to light that yes, this is a V6, and we understand that otherwise it would be intended to have a long life.
I move that variance request for case VRB 26-15 for the property located at 4701 North Himes Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284.2.5 T4 of the City Code for granting tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record showed that there is no reasonable reconfiguration of this building nor the demolition of the current building that would not damage the trees in question.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Seeing none, the variance passes. Congratulations.
Thank you, board.
And close the hearing. Thank you.